traveling by train has always been something magical, an experience that blends the past and the present in a continuous line of tracks. For many, these paths represent stories of reunions, adventures, and new discoveries. But, like every coin, this one also has a dark side. On the tracks, where so many lives have passed, there are stories that defy rationality, stories that make us question what really happens when night falls and the sound of the carriages echoes in the void. Have you ever imagined what might be hidden in the shadows of a deserted station? Or what might accompany a seemingly peaceful journey, but which, in the end, leaves scars in the memory of those who survived? The world of trains is full of mysteries, and it is not uncommon to find reports of unexplained events involving passengers, employees, and even the tracks themselves. Today, you will embark with me on a journey that goes beyond the physical, entering the territory of the unknown. Get ready to hear 3 real, but frighteningly mysterious stories that occurred on trains around the world. These stories will challenge your imagination and, perhaps, your courage. In the first, a simple passenger disappears without a trace on an ordinary journey, becoming a mystery that has never been solved. In the second, a ghost train appears in the darkness, leaving witnesses terrified and without explanation. Finally, we will visit the abandoned station, whose horror stories have deeply marked those who dared to explore. These stories are not just stories. They connect us to something bigger, something we cannot see, but that we feel when the silence of the night is interrupted by the distant whistle of a tremor. They are a reminder that not everything can be explained, and that, sometimes, the tracks lead to destinations we could never imagine. Now, adjust your seat, open your mind, and hold on tight. This will be a journey like no other. It was a cold winter night in 1984 when the 745 night train left London Central Station bound for Edinburgh. The journey, scheduled to take just over 5 hours, was a daily ritual for regular passengers. But that night, something peculiar caught the attention of station staff. A man in a dark coat, carrying an old leather suitcase, boarded the train with an expression that seemed strange, anxious, and restless. He had taken a seat next to the window in one of the middle carriages, as if desperately trying to get through. A few passengers noticed him. He was leafing through an old book with yellowed pages, but he seemed more interested in looking out the window, observing the dark void that the train left behind. Shortly after departure, the train began to cross the countryside covered in a thick blanket of snow. The silence inside the carriage was punctuated only by the sound of the wheels on the rails and the occasional movement of passengers adjusting their seats. At 11:45 p.m., an attendant passed by the carriage offering hot drinks. It was at this point that the mystery began. Upon reaching the seat where the man was sitting, she noticed something strange. His coat was still there, folded over the seat, but there was no sign of the man. Puzzled, she asked the other passengers if anyone had seen him leave, but they all denied it. The train was moving, and the doors could not be opened without setting off an alarm. The minutes turned into tension. An attendant notified the conductor, who began a search of the entire train. No sign of the man was found. The suitcase, like the coat, remained on the seat, as if he had simply vanished. Upon reaching the next station, the police were called. They searched the train thoroughly, examined the luggage and questioned the passengers, but nothing significant was discovered. The suitcase contained only ordinary clothes and a diary with blank pages. The incident was recorded as an unexplained disappearance. However, weeks later, local newspapers reported the publication of accounts from other passengers who claimed to have seen the man on subsequent trips, sitting in the same seat, wearing the same coat. These witnesses claimed that he seemed untouched by time, as if nothing had happened. Curiously, no railway employee has been able to confirm these sightings. But over the years, the story has taken on a life of its own, with details being exaggerated or distorted. Some believe that the man was the victim of some supernatural experiment, Others say that he was never human, but rather a manifestation linked to the tracks. The railway in question was closed years later, but the story persists among local residents. Many swear they hear phantom footsteps in the abandoned carriages or see a solitary figure on the platform of the old station. The passenger's disappearance has become an eternal enigma, leaving the question: is he gone forever, or do the tracks hold his spirit, trapped in an endless loop of aimless travel? In the small town of Morkstad in northern Sweden, a legend has been circulating for generations. It is the story of the ghost train of the North. The first documented sighting of the ghost train dates back to 1932, when a group of railway workers were restoring disused tracks one winter night. According to one of the men, the group heard the distinct sound of a train approaching, the whistle cutting through the freezing air, the screeching of iron wheels against the rails, and even the RA. It appeared suddenly, out of the fog like a silent monster, said the group's leader, Gunnar Lindström. But something was wrong. There were no lights, no conductor, and the train looked ancient, like. The workers stood still as the train slowly passed them. The darkness inside the carriages was absolute, but some swore they saw human silhouettes peering out the window. Pale, expressionless figures that disappeared as quickly as they had appeared. As soon as the train disappeared into the fog, the sound stopped completely, as if naked. Reports like this continued to emerge over the decades, always with similar elements. The train only appears in conditions of dense fog, always at night, and runs on tracks that had often been abandoned or dismantled years before. The phenomenon became so famous that paranormal investigators have. One such investigation occurred in 1987, when a small group of enthusiasts, armed with cameras and recorders, spent a week in the region. On the last night of their stay, they recounted an experience they would never forget. At around 2 a.m., as they were coming over an old railroad bridge, their recorders picked up an inexplicable sound. First, there was the soft rumble of wheels on tracks, followed by a distant whistle. Then, out of the shadows, the train appeared. They described the scene as surreal, as the train seemed to float slightly above the tracks. Despite being in place, no equipment captured the train visually. The cameras failed at the exact moment it appeared, and the only evidence captured were the children, strange and irregular, as if they had been filmed underwater. Locals have differing theories about the ghost train. Some believe it carried the souls of travelers who died in train accidents in the area. Others say it is an echo of a train that actually existed in the 19th century but was destroyed in a tragic accident. There are still those who avoid the tracks altogether on foggy nights, fearing that the train might stop and invite them to board. It is said that those who board the ghost train. Today, the ghost train of the North remains an unsolved mystery. Relationships continue to emerge occasionally, keeping the legend and the fear alive. But one thing is certain, anyone who has witnessed their intimacy swears there is something deeply wrong with that train, as if it were displaced from time and space, haunting the tracks on an endless journey. Deep in the heart of a secluded forest in the state of Pennsylvania, there is an abandoned train station that locals prefer to avoid at all costs. Known as the Black Hollow Condemned Station, this place is full of stories of tragedies and unexplained events that have turned the space into a true icon of terror. The station opened in 1907 as part of an important route that connected small towns to the metropolis. During the first years of operation, everything seemed to be going well. However, in 1913, a devastating derailment took the lives of more than 30 passengers and employees. The accident was attributed to a fault in the tracks, but some workers claimed to have heard a strange sound coming from the tunnels hours before the disaster, something that sounded like suggestions echoing off the walls. After the accident, operations resumed, but the station was never the same. Reports from employees and passengers about apparitions began to emerge frequently. The most common involved shadows that, in parallel, move through the empty corridors, or the sounds of footsteps on deserted platforms. In 1925, another tragic event marked the station's history. An engineer, allegedly disturbed by constant visions of passengers he believed to be dead, took his own life in the main office. After his death, reports of paranormal activity intensified, leading many to abandon their posts. In the 1930s, the station was closed for good due to declining passenger numbers and the deteriorating state of the facilities. But even after its abandonment, it continued to attract curious people, and many of them left with terrifying stories. One of the most notable discoveries involved a family who decided to explore the station in the 1970s. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they walked through dark, graffiti-covered corridors, feeling a heavy atmosphere. At one point, the youngest daughter began screaming, pointing at something no one else could see. "They're coming," she repeated, her eyes wide with terror. The family hurriedly left, but when they reviewed the photos they had taken, they noticed something disturbing. In several of the images, hazy silhouettes appeared in the background, especially near the doors and windows. The photos have become a local legend, although no one knows where they are today. Other explorers have also reported unexplained sounds, such as voices calling their names or distant screams that could not be explained as coming from the tunnels. Some have even claimed to have felt invisible hands trying to pull them into the darkness. Locals avoid talking about the station, but there are those who believe it is a portal to something beyond our understanding. Some say that the spirits of the derailment victims are trapped there, unable to move on. Others suggest that something more ancient and evil inhabits the corridors and tunnels, feeding on the fear of those who dare to enter. Today, the Black Hollow doomed station is just a ruin overgrown with vegetation. However, the silence around it is unsettling, as if the place itself is waiting for its next victim. For those passing by, the advice is always the same: don't stop, don't look, and never ever enter. After exploring these three disturbing and real-life horror stories, one question remains: what can they teach us about the unknown? These stories are not just scary tales. They reflect our deepest fears and the emotions that emerge when faced with the unexplainable. Homes, by their very nature, are intimate and personal spaces, designed to protect and comfort. However, when something breaches that security, whether through paranormal events, hidden secrets, or past tragedies, what should be a haven becomes a place of horror. These stories highlight how a home can be both a sanctuary and a prison, depending on what is held within its walls. The Cardoso house showed how past traumas can literally seep into the present, making it impossible for new residents to ignore what happened there. The house that never sleeps exemplified how residual energies can linger, echoing events that have deeply affected that space. The Forbidden Room revealed the danger of curiosity when it collides with forces we do not understand. These stories connect us to a primal fear, the fear of the unknown. When something defies logic or challenges our perception of reality, we are forced to confront the idea that we may not be as in control as we would like to believe. In addition, the stories explore universal themes such as loss, regret, and the impact of human actions on the environment. In all of them, the characters face forces that, in some way, were a reflection of past choices or events. The big question these stories raise is, should we fear the supernatural or simply respect it? Many cultures around the world believe that there are things we should not provoke or try to understand. Just as John's uncle warned in his diary, there are doors that should not be opened. In a broader sense, this can be interpreted as a reminder that some truths, memories, or secrets are best left in the past. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer in the supernatural, these stories remind us that houses carry stories, and some of those stories can be deeper, darker, and more disturbing than we might imagine. So, next time you visit a new home or consider moving, pay attention to the signs, listen to your intuition, and, above all, never ignore what cannot be explained. After all, what is hidden may not always want to be found. These were just 3 stories. But who knows how many other hidden secrets are hidden out there? If you like this video and want more stories like these, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, where we will bring more real and disturbing stories. And tell me here in the comments, have you ever experienced something inexplicable? This call to action is engaging, encourages audience interaction, and maintains the atmosphere of mystery and curiosity. If you need settings or want something more specific, just let me know.